kind of get the word out about what we do. And
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. All right. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Jasmine, and I am the Chief Director of Entrepreneurial Growth and Innovation at the Progress Center for Black Women. And I am here with Katie Bannon, who is in charge of doing the signage and zoning at the City of Madison. So, Katie, if you want to introduce yourself and just talk a little bit more about your role and what you do.
Sure, sounds great. Thanks so much, Jasmine, for having me. So I'm Katie Bannon. I'm the zoning administrator at the city. So as Jasmine already said, I work with the team that manages our zoning code and our sign code. So zoning code, that's the laws that regulate how private property can be used and developed. And then the sign code is all about signage, as you might have guessed, all about the type of signage that's allowed, the size of signage, where it can be located, all those details, that law we also manage.
Perfect. Thanks, Katie. So we'll kind of hop right into it. But before we do, we wanted to do this Q&A just because we have had a few of our entrepreneurs who have reached out to learn more about how they can get signage for, their new location, or may have had to work through some zoning issues prior to moving into their retail spaces. For example, we've worked with Sarah Branch, who owns Earthly Temptations, and she is located on Park Street here in Madison. So we were able to connect her to Katie's department to get some zoning issues worked out and then eventually to get her sign up. So we do appreciate their help. So can you, Katie, just describe what your department specializes in? What are some of the day-to-day tasks that you guys are taking care of with small business owners specifically?
Yeah, so I think we interact most with small business owners when they're either looking to move into a location, move to a new location, or do some kind of development on their property, maybe expand into another tenant space, add an addition, change their parking lot, all those details. And I think the biggest advice I have for entrepreneurs is really I think a lot of entrepreneurs don't necessarily know or think about until the last minute. Like maybe I should ask the city just to make sure there aren't any rules that are going to affect, can I be located here? What do I need to do before I move in? And so the earlier we can be engaged, ideally before you've signed a lease, before you've purchased a property with a plan that you think is going to work, because there are a number of laws and rules that could affect your ability to do that or just the timing of your ability to do that. So making sure, okay, is are you allowed to open this business here today based on what zoning district you're in? So the entire city is separated into different districts where certain things are allowed there, both uses and certain types of buildings. So making sure this is your plan, it corresponds with this particular use in our zoning code, and is it an allowed use? Sometimes someone will have to move into a different zoning district to be allowed, or it's what's called a conditional use, where you have to go to Plan Commission and ask for special permission to locate that use in this location. Even if it's what's called a permitted use, where it's just allowed kind of outright, you don't have to go through a public hearing process. So typically should be a shorter process. There might be something that's needed from a building code perspective. We work a lot with colleagues who deal with the building code and do plan review. And so maybe you're going from one use to another use, and now there's a different safety standards that's required to be met before you can move in and open up. So we really encourage people reach out. That's what we're there for. We have an email address, a phone number. You can make an appointment to meet with us in person. Um, really having that dialogue, the earlier the better, so we can really help you through the process. Because yeah, we want new businesses to open and be successful in the community.
Perfect. And so you mentioned the zoning and signage, and you actually answered my next question, which is perfect, what the zoning is and what it means to small business owners. So that's definitely a good explanation of some of the things that they should be thinking about when moving into a retail space. I was also looking at the website and I seen some things around like fencing and some other kind of things. So can you maybe talk about some of the things that are not like zoning and signage that are some things that your department handles and what that looks like?
Yeah, so fences are part of the zoning code. It's maybe something that doesn't like spring to everyone's mind as the first thing we do, but really since we're regulating all the things that you can put on your property and where they can go and how they can be, so there are a lot of rules about like how tall can your signage be, or I'm sorry, how tall can your fence be? How tall can your signage be as well? But how tall can your fence be? Where can it be located? In some cases, fences are required too to screen views of certain things for our non-residential use. So that's something that might be unexpected. Really, anytime someone's doing a building addition or putting up a shed, changing the design of their parking lot or adding bike parking, all those little details, they do have rules around them. And so being able to talk through kind of how can you accomplish your goal while also meeting the zoning code is a lot of what we do in those circumstances.
Awesome. And I know that we've also referred several of our entrepreneurs to the Economic Development Division Department at the City of Madison. Do you guys work pretty closely with them? Are you guys kind of exchanging feedback and things that are going on with small business owners?
We do interact a lot, and we're actually working on a new thing to kind of have a small group of us across city departments to coordinate better. You know, sometimes it's easy to get into like this is the part of what I do, and I know entrepreneurs see this better than anyone. They're going to this department, that department, and we all know, oh yes, you also need to talk to the clerk's office, but we don't see that what that actually is like for an entrepreneur moving from place to place. I think
Mhm.
economic development, they probably have the best view of that because they do a lot more coordinating between departments. So they're starting to get this group together more regularly again to let's break down our silos, talk together. What are those obstacles that are making it difficult for entrepreneurs to navigate all the different rules? What are the resources we can have available on our website, get out to the community to say, here are the steps. It very clearly not, oh, ping this website, and they're all kind of scattered in different places. But like, if you're
Mhm.
opening a business, one, two, three, how do you go through that process? So I am really excited about some of the things that I think are going to come out of that group because I know there are some disconnects that our entrepreneurs today experience as they try to navigate the different rules and different departments that manage those rules.
Gotcha. That's actually really good to know. I'm happy to hear that you guys are kind of creating a system where it'll allow you guys to work closely with one another and just make sure that the entrepreneurs are not having to go several different directions when trying to work through some business issues. So I really appreciate that you guys are doing that. Um, so I think you may have mentioned this, but if you can please clarify, how does an entrepreneur know that they may have some type of zoning issue or that they may need to contact your department?
I think the hard thing is they're not necessarily just going to know
Mhm.
offhand. It's really on them to contact us and to get us to get the word out. Please contact us, and we'll ask the questions to really walk through here are the different things you need to consider. You know,
Okay.
the zoning code and sign code are both, hundreds of pages long, and there's so many things in there and so much nuance. That it really, it can be difficult to navigate on your own. But honestly, that's also like, that's why we're here. Please call us. I think sometimes people try to just figure it out on their own. And, there's something to like having some information, seeing what you can find on the website. Like we have really good information about fences, but we still reach out to us. Okay, you think it's all right? Like let us ask some questions and really make sure um, all the things in the code have been considered. So you're not kind of going down a path and then we have to say, no, sorry. I know you thought that it was going to work out this way, but actually there's this other piece of the code that you missed. And I don't know, unfortunately, know any other way just because there is a lot in the code and it really can differ business to business, property to property. There's different rules.
Gotcha. Perfect. That sounds good. So can you name any like restrictions, excuse me, or things to overall consider when it comes to an entrepreneur getting signage for their retail space?
Yeah, I think that just maybe the most important thing to know is that there are permits required for most signage.
Okay.
And so you want to get that permit ahead of ordering a sign, fabricating a sign. We don't want anyone to spend money and then find out, oh, actually, this sign doesn't meet the sign code.
Mhm.
So the earlier the better if you have a vision for the sign. We do require that sign contractors get the sign permits. So they should be a lot more knowledgeable about the code and really be able to be that partner to a business owner in going through that process. There are some types of signs that don't need permits, but a lot of them do. So really, again, reach out to us, talk through your plans. Know that it's not immediate either. So it usually takes at least a couple weeks, and it can sometimes be longer than that, particularly in our busier season in the summer.
Mhm.
Um, that sometimes that sign permit's going to take longer, or if you want to kind of get a special exception because it doesn't meet the sign code, it's going to take longer. So again, not getting too far ahead of yourself before finding out is it allowed or not. And then there's some particular sign types that we've seen like that are relatively inexpensive that people think, oh, this will be great. This will draw attention to my business. And unfortunately, they're just sign types that aren't allowed in the city. And
Okay.
so again, before you make an investment in signage that isn't allowed, like one of the things we see sometimes is adver sales. So they're kind of those big feather banners where it's a long pole and there's a sign on it and it flaps in the breeze. That's not an allowed sign type.
Mhm.
Um, we can't allow like the yard signs that are in the right of way.
Mhm.
So the right of way is like on the other side of the sidewalk, close to the street. So sometimes people, oh, okay, it's relatively inexpensive, but still they've spent money and their budget is, limited. I don't want someone to spend money on a sign type that's not allowed.
Mhm.
So just giving us a call is always a good idea.
Gotcha. And then is it up to the entrepreneur to kind of outsource who like builds and designs the signage, or is that something you guys are able to assist with, or?
So we can provide a list of the licensed sign contractors, and then they often, either themselves fabricate it or they have a partner that they work with to fabricate the signs. And so, yeah, just kind of finding the right sign contractor for your business amongst the licensed list.
Perfect. Okay. And then how long does it usually take? I know you kind of explained the process time of signage. What does the process look like for zoning once they reach out, and about how long does that usually take?
So that can vary quite a bit depending on the extent of what someone wants to do. So that's why the earlier you reach out, the better. So in a best case scenario, maybe you reach out and the property is located in a zone that allows the use. It's allowed as a permitted use, so that means it doesn't need a special public hearing before Plan Commission or Council. And you don't need to do any kind of remodel of the property, the building, changes to the site. Um, in that case, it could be pretty quick. We just talk through and make sure you're not hitting any of those things, and then you're just getting what we call a zoning only certificate of occupancy. However, much of the time, there's some other thing that's required. So you're going to have to go through Plan Commission, which lengthens the process, or you're going to need a building code plan review, or you're going to have to submit plans of the work that's happening inside. Maybe there's something on the property that doesn't meet code, like there aren't bike racks, and that would be something that we'd have to work through getting the plans, so reviewing the plans. Um, and then, kind of on the other side is, gosh, maybe it's not even zoned today. To allow that use. But maybe the plans are supportive of it changing to that district so that use can be allowed.
Mhm.
Well, that's a process called rezoning or a map amendment. And so there's an application, it goes to Plan Commission, and it goes to Common Council. And so that's an even longer process. And then kind of you're coming back at the end to say, okay, now I'm done. So it really varies a lot. So again, the earlier the better. It's good not to just rely on trying to read the zoning code or your realtor says that they think it's okay. Just give us a call.
Gotcha. Can you think of like any examples of when a business may have to have their zoning sent to a public hearing, like when it has to go in front of the Madison Common Council?
Um, it varies a lot. I would say our zoning code, probably compared to other communities, it's relatively common that a use would have to go to at least Plan Commission for
Mhm.
a conditional use approval. It's what it's called.
Okay.
And then Plan Commission has to determine that it meets certain standards in order for that use to be allowed.
Mhm.
Um, it's also not uncommon. Maybe there's a conditional use for something on the property, like if there's like a commercial strip center and someone else has gone through the conditional use process, then because they have that approval, there's what's called an alteration process that anyone else on the property has to go through. And there's reaching out to the alder. So honestly, there's just so many examples. Like I could pull up the code and show you, yes, in this
Mhm.
district, you have to have a conditional use for XYZ. we have so many uses listed and so
Mhm.
many different scenarios that I don't have like a common one because
There's a lot.
they're so common.
Gotcha. Okay. That sounds good. Um, and then are you aware of any funding that is available currently for entrepreneurs, in regards to signage or zoning or anything like that?
I know that there is a facade improvement program that sometimes includes signage. I am not really well versed in that, so I could probably send you the link that you could share, which would be great because we're
Mhm.
always, looking for people to
Yeah.
um, those funds improve the facade, the aesthetics from the street, and get signage
Mhm.
that helps their business. Other than that, I know economic development manages some programs, and I'm not super familiar with them, but those are out there as well.
Perfect. And then are there like any annual costs or fees that entrepreneurs should be kind of thinking about to either like maintain the zoning or for signage? Like, do they have to pay an annual fee to upkeep or is it like a one-time fee cost?
Yeah, it's a one-time fee with the exception of there are portable signs. So these are kind of those A-frame signs in the right of way, and that's because it's located within the right of way, so city-owned property next to the street. There is a process for an annual renewal, and there's an annual renewal fee for those to provide that approval that they can continue to be located within that right of way.
Perfect. All right. Um, well, that was really good information. So, what is the best way to get in contact with your department?
Yeah. I should have all of this memorized. It's zoning at cityofmadison.com
Okay.
is the email address to reach out to. And I'm trying to find their phone number right offhand, which I should, like I said, know by heart, but I don't. You can go to cityofmadison.com/zoning is our URL to get to our site.
Gotcha.
And I give you our phone number. It's 608 266 4551.
Perfect. All right. All right. And then last question, anything else that you can think of that business owners should know before reaching out, knowing about the process, any of that sort?
Really, I think the biggest thing to know is that like we're here to help.
Yeah.
We may be the people who like administer and enforce the laws, which kind of can come off like, oh, that's kind of a heavy-handed thing to do, but we really do want to help people through the process. And so, um, even though it's like, okay, we're tasked with managing and making sure the law is followed, we really do try to take the approach of really like working with you as a partner. Even in the enforcement piece we have a philosophy of educate first, enforce when necessary. So if you get us notice a violation in the mail, what we really want you to do is reach out to us so we can talk through, okay, here's what you're in violation of, and here let's talk through how we can get into compliance and in a reasonable time frame. So don't be afraid.
Perfect. All righty. Well, thank you again, Katie, for taking the time to answer these questions. This will be a huge help in getting this information out to the entrepreneurs in our network and anyone who may be interested in owning a business. So this is very much appreciated. If you're ever needing to get in contact with Katie or her department, we'll definitely put the links on the video or include them in the description. You can also reach out to me directly and I can connect you to the department. So thanks again, Katie. I really
Yeah,
appreciate
thank
it.
you. And truly appreciate your partnership in this. And if there are
Yeah,
things, as you're looking through our website or working with entrepreneurs that you think, hey, if you did this differently or put this information online, it would really help people out. We're always looking to improve. So would love to hear
perfect.
that feedback from you.
Awesome. Thanks, Katie.
Thanks.